Howdy! Red Dead Redemption Online's Halloween event has come and gone once again, and this year I thought it would be fun to make a few of my favorite masks from the event. By the way, I know the event ended like a month ago, but I didn't have time to make it when it was still happening, so forgive me. This event offers so many cool masks, but my two favorites are the creature mask and the horror mask. Specifically the horror mask that looks like a pumpkin. Anyways, enough with my ranting, I'm going to shut up and I will show you how I made these two masks. I'm using this paper mask as a base. My first step is to just cut the mask down to the size of my face. This will ensure that it'll fit properly. Once I have my mask cut to the proper size of my head, I'm then going to trace out and cut the proper shape of the mask that I'm going for. Watching me cut has probably gotten old by this point, so let me help you out. Oops, I lied, you're gonna watch me cut even more off this mask. I have to remove a tiny bit of his nose in order to have the correct features of the actual mask. I'm gonna use masking tape to cover both the nose hole and help shape the eyes. Unfortunately, more cutting is required to get the proper shape of the eyes. I ended up using some fire. I don't recommend, but I ended up using some fire to help speed up the process and make it a cleaner cut. I sketched out the cheekbone and nose area where I will be using tinfoil to help raise and enhance the detail. I use tinfoil just to help save how much clay I use. I'm going to use more masking tape to cover the tinfoil to help the clay stick a little easier. Hey, remember this part of the chin that I cut off earlier? I'm actually going to glue it right back on, but only a small piece. This will be used as the mask's gum area that I will attach the lovely teeth to. And now it's time to add foam clay! When using foam clay, I like to work in sections to make sure that everything will be even. So I'm starting with the forehead and then I will work my way down to the nose and cheekbone area. Once I have my mask all covered in clay, I then use water to smooth everything out. This is probably one of my favorite steps from any project using foam clay. It really makes everything start coming together and makes the details look so good. I'm going to use a little more foam clay here to build up more of the nose's detail, and just follow the same steps using my tools to blend out the clay and then using water to soften it all up. Now it's time for the part that I was most excited to do. I'm using a series of different sculpting tools to add in all of the texture. I'm using this piece of scrap EVA foam that I had laying around to make all of the teeth, and they will be attached with hot glue. Here I'm using my heat gun to seal all of the EVA foam teeth. I'm using it on a low setting to make sure that I don't melt the hot glue. Meanwhile, I also gave the whole mask a base of black paint before realizing that I was not filming. Once my base was all dry, I then did many layers of dry brushing with different oranges The reason I'm dry brushing is to make sure that all of the crevices on the mask stay dark while the top parts get colored. Once I was content with the mask's pumpkinness, I then gave him a nice, beautiful smoky eye. This was just more layers and layers of black paint getting blended out. The mask's gums are going to get a nice coat of dark red, but I quickly realized that the gums were pretty flat and not detailed enough. So I decided to use my hot glue gun to give the gums a little more texture. Now with the gums more gummy-like, I can then give them a nice dark red coat. I'm giving the teeth a lovely dry brushing of yellow and then a wash of brown. The whole mask is going to get a nice coat of glossy Mod Podge. Upon further inspection, while I was looking at my references, I realized that the teeth were actually a lot grosser than I thought, so I am adding a brown outline to the respective places on the teeth. And with that, the horror mask is done. But wait, there's more. You thought I was just gonna make one mask? Of course not. Because now I'm gonna be working on the creature mask. I'm following all of the same steps as before, just cutting the mask to fit my size, and then cutting out all of the features needed for this mask. I'm using this piece of scrap cardboard to give myself a sturdy material to build the nose area off of. I'm attaching aluminum foil to the top and bottom parts of the cardboard to build up the shape. I will say that I did accidentally make the nose area a little longer than the actual reference, but it was too late to turn back, so I had to deal with it. But don't worry, I'm aware, and I'm not super happy with it, but it's alright. But anyways, with my desired shape all built up with the aluminum foil, I am now using some clay to just fill in all of the cracks before I cover all of the tin foil with masking tape. I'm pulling out some of this excess aluminum foil just to help make the mask a little lighter, but also to make it a little more correct in shape. Just like the other mask, I'm using more tin foil to build up all of the features. I'm actually going to jump ahead a little bit, but here I am using an oven bake Sculpey clay to shape all of the teeth. Now that we're back on track, I'm going to cover the whole mask in, you guessed it, foam clay!
Will you shut up?
I'm very sorry. But yes, I'm using more foam clay, and this time I did not cover all of the aluminum foil with masking tape, which was a huge mistake because it just poked through, meaning that I had to cover it with more and more clay. Here's the solution to my big mistake of not using masking tape. I ended up just using more foam clay to shape the features like I did on the other mask. This part was pretty satisfying. I just was able to shove all of the baked teeth into all of the clay. Now it's the super fun part of using all of my sculpting tools to carve in more details and textures into the clay. It's arguably one of the best parts of any project, using clay. Definitely an S-tier step. Once all of my clay is dry, I'm just going to use my heat gun to seal all of the foam. Oh, and look, it's my other favorite step, I say it in every video. The mask is firstly going to get a base coat of off-white paint. Once I've completely covered the mask in its base coat, I like to stipple my paintbrush to give the paint a more natural texture. Once my base coat was completely dry, I then go in with a couple different colored acrylic washes. This is literally just watered down light brown acrylic paint that is meant to sit in the cracks, and then I wipe off all of the excess on top. The first wash that I did ended up being a little too light to my liking, so I did darken it to a cold toned brown, almost like a gray, and I really like how it turned out. I'm using that same wash as before to add some dirty spots to the mask. This time I'm just not going to wipe off as much so that it shows up a little darker. I marked out where I wanted to paint the details on the forehead and then filled it in with black paint. I'm a little off track here, but I realized that I needed to add more shadowing in the eyes and teeth area for more detail. Back on track once again, I sketched out the little detail on the forehead and then filled it in with white paint. And finally, the last step for this mask is to give it a coat of glossy Mod Podge. And with that, the creature mask is finished.